Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for December 23rd, 2021, the How to Win Friends and Influence People edition. And we begin with that story from Reuters as Amazon is taking India's financial crime fighting agency to court, seeking to quash the investigation into one of its 2019 deals. The Enforcement Directorate has for months been probing Amazon's $200 million investment into India's Future Group for suspected violation of foreign investment laws. The investment is a center of protracted legal battles, and Amazon has now called this investigation a fishing and roving inquiry, saying that the regulators have sought privileged legal advice. So when you sue the regulators, you're definitely on the road to winning friends and influencing others. Next up, also from Reuters, the SEC rejects Apple's bid to skip a shareholder proposal asking if the iPhone maker provide greater transparency in its efforts to keep forced labor out of its supply chain. A group of shareholders had asked Apple's board to prepare a report on how the company protects workers in its supply chain from forced labor. The request for information covered the extent Apple has identified suppliers and sub-suppliers that are at risk for forced labor and how Apple may have taken action against them. So I guess this means Apple is going to face a vote on this proposal at the annual shareholder meeting. Good luck, Apple. Next up, also from Reuters, Brazilian companies are coming to the U.S. to list on the U.S. stock exchange. So think about that for a minute. What could go wrong? Well, I wonder if they have SOX 404 controls. I wonder if they have internal controls for an effective compliance program. I wonder if they have appropriate corporate governance under U.S. securities laws, not Brazilian laws. So when foreign companies come to the U.S., it's often problematic because they want access to the world's greatest capital market, but they don't want to have the shareholder and corporate governance protections in place. And finally, from the New York Times, Wall Street hits the pause on returning to the office. Wall Street banks had taken a pretty tough line on return to the office, but they have changed their tune with the Omicron variant raging. Bank of America told employees this week that they can work from home during the holidays, and Deutsche Bank has also encouraged employees to work from home for at least the last couple of weeks of the year. So even New York banks are realizing this is serious. Of course, in New York, with its greater density, greater chance of catching the Omicron variant. The Daily Compliance News will be off until December 28th, so I hope you have a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and Happy Holidays if you celebrate other holidays. We look forward to visiting with you next week. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.